Back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. It is Monday edition of the broadcast, January the 10th, 2011. Glad you could be with us. We got tons more to talk about with you here today on the show. We'd love to hear from you, 214-613-5732. You can also email questions in globalrealityshow@gmail.com. That's globalrealityshow@gmail.com. You can email questions, whatever else you want there at that email address, and I'll be more than happy to address any questions that we get in there from the email as well. Please support our work, folks, and we have to survive and stay alive here, and the way that we do that is from you, the listeners. I can't stress this enough. Sometimes it takes me having to get up here and tell you we're in red alert situations and stuff before we get support, and sometimes, and I hate that it has to be like that. Just that's how we stay commercial free. If you don't want there to be commercials during the show, and you don't want there to be commercial breaks and advertisements all over the website, then we have to have support and donations in at the website to be able to do that. So there you go. Also, if you'd like to donate towards the films and our other work, the donate button is there for that. We also have a recurring subscription button there where you can become a member of the Global Reality for a different monthly pledge. There's a little drop down menu. You can select different amounts, and that comes out of your bank account automatically. You can do it that way. But there you go. There's that. We'll talk about this shooting thing, although I know it's probably been talked about ad nauseum already on all the other radio networks and shows and everybody out there. But I'll do my best to give you my analysis and commentary on this. Of course, as you know, Representative Gabrielle Giffords and 19 others were shot at a Tucson Safeway at some sort of political event there that was going on. Congresswoman Gabriella Giffords was shot Saturday during a public event outside a Tucson, Arizona grocery store. Law enforcement initially said she was killed in the attack, but moments after those reports, a surgeon on the scene told MSNBC that she was still alive but in critical condition. Already there are all of the earmarks that this was all the indicators that this was indeed in operation, and most likely this gentleman who was the shooter was most likely either under some sort of mind control or being led. I mean, the initial reports came out that he was the only shooter, and then of course we've had other reports came out. We had the sheriff came out and said that he didn't believe in any way, shape, or form that this guy acted alone. And here's the story from that. This is from kphq.com. Sheriff not convinced gunman acted alone. Now, this happens every time there's a shooting. Or in the case of Timothy McVeigh, where there's always strong evidence that there was another person with him, and then they come out later and say, no, that person acted alone. And anytime there's another person with them, this is generally their handler or the person that gives the voice commands that then trigger whatever response is programmed into them through mind control. That's why there's always another person with them. The investigation into the shooting deaths of 6 people and the wounding of 13 others, including Gabrielle Giffords, continues in Tucson, and the FBI director has been sent by President Barack Obama to oversee the probe. The shootings took place as Giffords met with a group of constituents at a Tucson Safeway on Saturday. The sheriff says Giffords was the intended target. She is in critical condition after being shot in the head. Right. She was the intended target, but he didn't really even go for her first, which is interesting. Pima County Sheriff Clarence Dupenick just held a news conference at 6:15 p.m. on Saturday and released more details on the shooting. Dupenick said the bullet went through and through. She is in and out of surgery, and doctors are optimistic for her recovery. And they also said that a 6-year-old girl was killed, which they came back later and said, no, the girl wasn't 6. She was 9. And she, which is interesting. It says right here, Dupinick said a 6-year-old girl was also killed. He didn't release names on the other victims. Well, that's interesting. So the initial report is that this young girl was 6 that was killed. Then they came back later and said, no, she wasn't 6. She was 9. And, oh, by the way, she was also born on September 11, 2001. Now, last week we talked about with the death of John Wheeler, Jack Parsons Wheeler, the connection there with his, name, middle name being Parsons, and his name essentially being Jack Parsons. And I had postulated the idea that could very well be an occultic calling card, that whatever this situation that's going down with the dead birds and the New Madrid fault earthquake is a part of a massive blood sacrifice ritual, and this is a calling card indicator of that. Now, if they are indeed getting ready to go forward with this massive event of a massive earthquake on the New Madrid fault line happening at some point, maybe possibly even this year, National Level Exercises 2011 for that exact scenario, the event of a massive earthquake happening on the New Madrid fault line, those national level exercise events that are being conducted with the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA are taking place in May of this year. And there is a direct connection between this shooting and those events, because in all actuality, if they were getting ready to do a massive event and they were going to be essentially, locking down huge sections of the country, initiating martial law lockdowns and those kind of things, it would be in their best interest for there to be, as few of people with weapons as possible to contain looting and civil unrest and the rest of this stuff. I think that this operation, this shooting, has been in order to be able to railroad and ramrod in draconian gun legislation prior to whatever this next big event is going to be, whether that's a simultaneous, dirty bomb attack and a massive induced earthquake along the New Madrid fault line, or a combination of those things. But I think we have two calling cards that tell us that these are interconnected. I think that this situation, and I had told you just a few weeks ago, actually right before Christmas, I told you that I smelled a gun op coming around the corner, didn't I? Those of you who listen to the show on a regular basis can attest to that and verify that I did tell you. I had predicted that there was probably going to be a mall shooting that was going to take place sometime between Black Friday and Christmas. But then I had this sort of feeling that there were indicators that there was going to be a massive anti-gun op that was going to be happening sometime soon, sometime right in the new year, so they could bring in this new legislation. And I think now, indeed, with, you have one of the victims being born on 9/11, dying on 9/11, then, of course, Wheeler and his middle name there. All these are very, very subtle indicators. And, of course, tomorrow is 1/1/1/1/1 1/11/11. And, who knows what's going to go down tomorrow. I mean, all this stuff could be leading up to that. Then again, maybe nothing will happen. Who knows? But the point of the matter is that we have these two events, and there's just no question that this guy, all of this stuff has been that's come out on this shooter. A lot of the stuff of this guy talking looks like computer generated stuff. There was a thread that was found on the website abovetopsecret.com that was made by this guy. ERAD3 was his screen name. This was the alleged shooter, or the shooter that was implicated in the murders on Saturday. And everything that's come out by this guy looks like it's, computer generated jargon gibberish. And this is what it says on this Above Top Secret page. I'll put this in the chat room. Read that. It's like incomprehensible garbage. It says, if the design of the NASA space shuttle I knew that was coming. Keeps the black body temperature of 454 degrees Fahrenheit from the outside orbit, then the NASA space shuttle is at the temperature for human life. Huh? The NASA space shuttle isn't at a temperature for human life. Hence, the design of the NASA space shuttle doesn't keep the black body temperature of negative 454 degrees Fahrenheit from the outside orbit. If the air supply supports the NASA space shuttle mission for the time in orbit, then the crew is able to breathe with the correct amount of oxygen for the time in orbit. The crew is not able to breathe with the correct amount of oxygen for the time in orbit. Consequently, the air supply doesn't support the NASA space shuttle mission for the time in orbit. Huh? I mean, it's just incomprehensible garbage. And even the people on this thread are saying, I'm struggling to see the point of your topic. It very well could be. That's a very interesting idea. Costax in the chat room there says Caesar 3 messing with us. Yeah, well, it's a very interesting thing. We don't know that all of this stuff that's allegedly linking this guy to all of this wasn't, generated by some computer and posted by some computer. Yeah, they said he was able to shoot 20 people with a Glock handgun. And they said that he had an extended clip. Now, I'm not aware of an extended clip that'll hold 20 shots, especially from a Glock. And a Glock is a shitty gun. Let me tell you this. A Glock is a piece of shit. It's a fucking ghetto gangsta gun, okay? A Glock is one of the most inaccurate guns. They jam quite a bit. I mean, they're a piece of shit. But this guy could have gone into a gun show and bought a gun off a dealer for half the price that wasn't traceable, but yet he goes into a gun store and buys a traceable weapon off the shelf. It just doesn't make sense to me. There's no way that guy fired off that many shots in that quick of amount of time with a bunch of people around from that gun. There's just no way. But of course, as we talked about, what are they doing now? What are they? Well, they're using this to again. They're trying to associate this guy. This guy wasn't even what you would call a right winger. He was a left winger. Oh, and by the way, did you see that clip from Keith Olbermann where they had the guy on from the Southern Poverty Law Center where the guy says something about he was into the ideologies of David Icke, which of course is David Icke. Well, that's a boon for David Icke, isn't it? Well, you can't buy that kind of publicity. Boy, Jesus Christ. Look, folks, anybody that gets mentioned if you get put on the ADL blacklist, you're working for the ADL. You understand that, right? The ADL only puts people on their blacklist that are their operatives. Same thing with the Southern Poverty Law Center. I mean, what a boon for David Icke. Now, millions of people who saw that clip are going to go out and buy his books now. Boy, that's just great for him, isn't it? I mean, wow, what are the odds? People are saying, oh, he said something about David Icke. Oh, it's so horrible, blah, blah. No, that's huge for David Icke. Are you kidding? It's not like they only mention their operatives. They don't mention shows like mine or Lee's or anybody else's when it comes to these things because we're not their operatives. And, they certainly don't want to give us any publicity. But that, wow, what are the odds there? I mean, that's just huge. And what are the odds? Doesn't David Icke have like a brand new book either coming out or about to come out or just did come out, something like that? So he just happens to get mentioned by the guy from the Southern Poverty Law Center on this Olbermann clip. I mean, wow! Right when his new book is coming out, I find that pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, there's just no question that this is an operation, and I think it ties right in with what we've talked about with them trying to shut down the existing internet, with the operation that WikiLeaks is tried to run. I think that this is the next phase of that. Of course, what we talked about with gun legislation, and also very well could have been a retaliation for the death of this guy Wheeler. who was, who was a very prominent right wing guy on the right. And this is how these guys